So basically, this is how it looks when we start any project. You have the different type of categories here based on the different work that we are going to be doing, in and out to ingest data, preparation to change or to clean the data, transform to make calculation, connecting to databases, and so on, right? Predictive analytics, A/B testings, if we are going to be working with marketing campaigns, prescriptive analytics, predictive grouping, time series if we are going to work with forecasting, demographic analytics. This is amazing. You know, I don't even know everything that you could, because I usually do the same type of work with Alteryx, but this is, you know, and this is growing exponentially, right? You can do so many things that you can even imagine. It's probably the most or the go-to tool for anything that you'll be doing for analytics, right? You don't need to code a line, or at least you can customize some of these tools, some of these unique solutions that you would be dropping. Some of them you can type a code if you are interested in coding in Python, in R, or and so on. But you don't need to code. You don't need to write a line of code. That is why I love this tool so much, because it empowers everyone. You don't need to be a PhD to create an analytics model, right? You can do it, or a machine learning model, or a big data model. You can do it just with this simple tool. And there are many tutorials out there that you can check, and probably in a couple of hours you can be an expert. So let me show you how this works. Basically, we use the input data to ingest data. Again, imagine that we are using a mailing campaign, a mailing database for our marketing campaign. So we are going to ingest the data mailing information. So we are going to open that data. I'm going to probably explain this very fast or quick. If anyone has questions, please stop me at any point, and we probably can do a whole session on Alteryx, or a whole day working with Alteryx. But basically, if we drop this, the browse tool, and we run this, we are going to see the information below that we are ingesting into this model, right? In this case, is user ID, first name, last name, prefix, gender, date of birth, registration, and so on. Remember, this is information about students. Look at how gender is coming. We are seeing, first we are seeing some of them with uppercase, some of them in lowercase, and a lot of characters before what we want to see. So this is because when we capture data from internet, usually comes with these many different characters that we sometimes need to clean them up, right? We are going to drop this tool, the select tool. Basically, select tool, what select tool does is allowing us to change the type of data that we are having. For example, we have, in this case, data time. Let's suppose that we want to use those fields where we have the date, the birth date of the student. We want to see that in text, in the format of text. So we would change this from date, time, to string, for example. And we are going to see that in text, in the form of text. That is usually when we need to do some works like concatenation, some different type of functions that are used for test. Let's suppose that we want to rename first from first to first name, let's say, because that is the format that we have this in our databases, right? Same with last. We are going to put last name. Let's suppose that we want to change email in order to have the same name of the columns, the same registration email, and so on, right? This is an example on how you can change the format of the data you are playing with or working with. Let's suppose that we want to see this column upper, and we are going using these arrows. We are going to see these probably upper. And if we add another browse tool here at the end, and we run the process again, we are going to see the information that we just changed. So instead of name, we see first name, last name, and we see this field, this column, after the date of birth. Now let's suppose that we want to remove all these different characters that we have there, and we want to harmonize the data that we have there, instead of having some of them in uppercase, some of them in lowercase, some of them with white spaces, tail spaces, and so on. We want to remove all those characters, and we want to harmonize everything and have everything, or even in uppercase or even in lowercase. So for that, we are going to drop this tool that is data cleansing. And basically, we'll be working with this column, the column name gender, and we are going to clean that data in order to have everything harmonized. So we go to this data cleansing tool. We remove all the fields, and we leave only gender in order to clean the data that we have in that column, right? So then we are going to tell the model that it needs to remove the spaces, it needs to remove the zeros, in case that we are working with numeric fields. It's not the case, this is text, but we can leave that or remove that, is the same. And all the white or blank spaces that we would be having, plus the different type of weird characters that we have there. We want to remove all those punctuation characters that we have there. So we are also going to select this box in order to remove the punctuation. And now, if we modify the case, we can select how we want to see the data, right? Even in uppercase, or even in lowercase, or even with title case, that is putting the first character in uppercase. We are going to add a browse tool at the end, and we are going to run the process. So you can see now gender appears with removing all the different characters that we used to have, and we are having all the type of data harmonized. Any questions so far? Sorry if I'm going probably fast, because we don't have much time. Okay.
It's perfect.
Okay. Please raise your hands if anyone have questions or comments. Feel free. So what we did so far, we imported the data from the students, we analyzed the data, we changed the name of the columns that were wrong, we cleaned the data in order to have this data probably aligned, and remove all the different characters that we downloaded from internet or from social media, and we finally have this data almost harmonized. Let's suppose that we want to create one more. We are interested in having first name and last name in one column, right? So we are going to create a new column using this formula tool. We are going to add a new column, and we are going to name this full name. And what we are going to do is concatenating first name and last name, basically. So we are going to type first name, the field that we just created, plus double quote, underscore, double quote, plus last name. We add again the browse tool, and we run the process. So we can see that at the end, oops, here, we're going to have a new field that is the first name concatenated with the last name, Sebastian underscore Madsen, Felix Jones, and so on. So now what we did is having this information, that is what we need for the mailing, for the marketing campaign. What we are going to do now, remember that we are interested in having the information from US students, and here we have students from everywhere. So we want to filter, you see the country that we have many countries. We want to filter this information in order to keep only American students, right, or students living in the US. So we are going to drop this tool here. We are going to connect the output of the formula with the input of the filter. Filter basically has one input and two outputs. The first input is the data we are ingesting. The two output is the true or false of the conditions that we are typing or selecting. In this case, we are asking whether a student is living in the US or not. So we are going to click here. We can type our condition here, those that like coding, or we can select basically the conditions that we want to ask for this filter option. So we are going to select country, that is the column that we are going to filter this data by. And we have many options. We can use equals, we can use contains, we can use is null, is not null, and so on. But we are going to select equals US, meaning that we are going the output T of this condition is going to bring all the students that we have living in the US. The false, the F, is going to bring the rest, right? Let's drop two browse tools in order to see how it looks after running the process. So, by the way, we see we have a visual representation of the data that we have here. It shows the minimum, the median, the maximum, and how this data is divided, right? Sometimes we have information about when we have empty records, we have nulls, and so on, right? So we have here in the true, we have the US students. In the false, we have the rest of the students, the other students around the world. Does it make sense so far?
Yes, it does. We have a question from Maria asking, can you run a script to continuously update the real-time feed to a Tableau dashboard at the same time?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, this is something that as you can see, I'm running this manually, clicking on the run button. But the real, if you are using this for a company, you want to have this running on a server, right? You want to have a Tableau server or an Alteryx server. So you can schedule these jobs to run automatically, and you won't have any human intervention of any type, right? That would automatically feed the Tableau dashboards with information updated. Again, we are imagining a scenario where you have information from different data sources, right? Not just internal, not just databases, not just one database, but many databases, many information coming from different sources, using, again, external data, scraping data from social media, and so on. So that is not something that, is not so easy to be done by one person manually doing this work, right? But to your question, yes, to your question, it can and actually should be running automatically. You don't need to have a guy pressing that blue button that I'm placing here, the run button, right? So now, let's suppose that we want to collect the information from the students, but we want to collect more personal information. So for that, we remember that here we only have the emails of the name and emails of the students and date of birth. Let's suppose that we want to include more personal information, like the city, like the address, like the mobile phone, and so on. So what we are going to do is drop a join tool, and we are going to join this data with another data source, the personal database of the people in the US. Let's pretend that we have that data. So I'm going to drop another input tool. I'm going to select another data source. I'm going to include the data addresses of the student, or actually all the people in the US. Let's pretend that I have that information, and connect this with the right input of this tool. and connect the left input with the true, the output of the filter of the previous process. This tool basically what it has is, as you can see, 2 inputs and 3 outputs. What we do here is connecting different data sources, one at the left and the other at the right, basically by one condition. In this case can be, I don't know, the name of the student or the user ID or any particular condition that we can find in both data sources, right? And we have 3 outputs. One output is the L, that is what we have in the left input that we don't in the right. The other is the J, comes from join, that is actually what we have in both data sources. And the third one is the R, meaning right, what we have in the right input and we don't in the left input. That is the concept of inner join, outer join, and you know, the different type of joins that we have when we work with SQL or another scripting language, right? So basically what we are doing is connecting these. We can see that both data sources have a user ID. So we are going to use the user ID as the common field for both data sources. We can see that user ID is twice, so we don't want to have this information twice. So we are going to remove this because it's duplicated. And again, to understand what we are doing, we have in the left, we have the data mailing of the students that we have living in the US. In the right, we have all the population in the US, right? So in other words, we are going to see here in the J, we are going to see student information of the students that we have in the left, but not in the right. I mean, we have in both the left and the right. But we won't see anything in the L because all the students are already living in the US. Hence, they are in they appear in the right data source. On the other hand, we might have people living in the US that is not a student. So we might have people in the R that is not in the J, right? So we are going to include 2 browse tools on each of the outputs just to see how it looks, and we are going to run the process. So in the middle, we have the join data with the user ID, all the information about the students that we already have, plus the personal information like the full name, like the phone, the mobile, the address, the city, the state, and the zip code. In the left is of course empty because we don't have a student living in the US that is not already in the whole population in the US, right? But we do have records in the right that are not part of NYU. We have people living, not everyone living in the US is part of NYU. Any questions so far, you guys with me?
Yep.
Okay, so to wrap up, we are almost on time. We are connecting this tool to remember that we want to have this information grouped by area code. So we are going to take the mobile phone of each of these students, and we are going to split this into parts. We want to have the area code to group or to understand how many students we have per area code. So we are going to take this field and split this in 2 using this dash. So we are going to select here mobile. We are going to select 2 columns, and we are going to select the dash as the characters that are going to split this into. We are going to drop a browse tool and run the process. So we can see at the end that we have 2 new fields, mobile 1, that is the area code, and mobile 2, that is the phone number of these students. But remember that we wanted to know how many students we have per area using this area code. So for that, we are going to use this tool, the summarize tool, connecting the output of this solution here, select mobile 1, that is where we have the area code, group this by mobile 1, by area code. We are going to rename this instead of area mobile 1, we are going to put area code. And we are going to count the number of students that we have per area code. We are going to drop another browse tool and run the process. So now you can see that we have the area code and the number of students that we have per area code. Let's use finally to close a sort tool in order to have which are the students, the area codes with the most students. We are going to select count, we are going to select descending, and we are going to add a browse tool. Finally, we're going to have which are the areas with the most students. So let's think that we are on time. I like to have your feedback if you have questions, comments, or.
Yes, so we do have one question. What is the script language?
Scripting languages are the languages that we have, like Python, R, even SQL is considered for some authors scripting languages. Let's say the languages that are a high level, meaning for high level, all those that are close to human language, right? When those that are old, like me, probably started your data science life coding with C++, coding with, I don't know, COBOL, those languages that you would need to code, I don't know, hours for any stupid routine. Now the languages, I'm not saying that they are easy, but they are very close and getting closer to human language, to English, right? SQL, for example. If you are coding in SQL, you are typing select X from blah, blah, blah. It's basically English, right? It's I'm not saying that it's easy to learn, but it's very close or getting closer to human language, right? That is what we call scripting language. And that is a code that you can also script and include in internal routines or different type of different type of other codes called HTML, code these type of solutions. You can include a code there and probably run those different type of codes within a bigger or a higher routine. You saw that I didn't type any line of code here.
Yeah.
I could, however, but I didn't. So you can easily deploy a model with no code. Same with Tableau. You can also include lines, include scripting code in Tableau. You can include lines of Python and different type of coding, but it's very easy. And usually you wouldn't do that. It's very easy and transparent and seamless, right? This Alteryx is the same. You don't need to type code for any model that you are going to deploy. It's very good, however, on the other hand, understanding what you are doing, having a background on data science or any statistical knowledge before doing any type of work with data, but you don't need to, right? It's not something that you must have.